Hello, all you theater lovers, both out and proud and on the DL, and welcome back to Broadway Breakdown, a podcast discussing the history and legacy of American theater's most exclusive address, Broadway. This series is called Problematic, covering shows that you're mad at and their possible redemption. I'm your host, Matt Koplik, the least famous and most opinionated of all the Broadway podcast hosts, and with me today is a dear friend, a Broadway actor. You might know him from his work in Company, or The Band's Visit. You can see him at Paper Mill Playhouse doing Fiddler on the Roof. The
Irish version, I suppose.
Yeah, otherwise known as the David Laveau 2004 version. Please welcome Etai Benson.
Hi.
Hi, Etai.
Hi, Matt.
How are you doing today?
I'm okay. I'm very happy to be sitting with you.
I'm happy to have you sitting here with me as well. This has been a long time coming.
Yes.
Etai and I know each other from the Manor.
The Manor.
That's how Allie Gordon...
You brought up the Manor before. Here.
Yeah, yes. Allie Gordon and I now refer to it as the Manor. Listen, you got to talk about it every couple of days, otherwise it goes away. It's like fairies. You got to believe in it.
Have you seen Theater Camp yet? I haven't seen it.
I haven't.
Okay.
I will eventually. Everyone keeps telling me to watch it. I'm like, I have Camp on DVD, and I own a copy of... Theater Geek or whatever that book was about Stage Door. I'm like, I've done my due diligence. Must I watch Ben Platt pretend that he went to Stage Door? I don't think so. I don't need it.
There's that documentary, that they made while we were there.
I'm in it.
I'm in it as well.
Yes. I don't remember.
No one watch it.
No one watch it. Etai, we are covering problematic shows.
Yes.
And by problematic, I don't mean shows that are unfixable, like maybe a Candide or a Merrily. I'm not even talking about shows that I think have poor morals, but shows that have had some controversy surrounding them, some backlash, if you will. Mm-hmm. And what is the show that we're covering today?
We are covering Downstate by Bruce Norris.
Fuck
yeah.
Off-Broadway
Breakdown.
Off-Broadway Breakdown, yeah. Sometimes we cover Off-Broadway. This is actually not going to be the last Off-Broadway show in this series, but I think maybe the only play. Unclear. But this is the first straight play for the series, Downstate, and I'm glad that this is it. I gave you the list of shows that we were looking into covering. You gave me a few of your choices back, and when you had Downstate listed in your group, I was thrilled. I was so thrilled.
Well, I haven't gotten to attend the theater very often recently. I've had a lot of things happening in my life, and some of which will come into play as we talk about this play.
Absolutely.
But this was one of the few that I felt I had to see. I had spoken to enough people who said you must see it. Mm-hmm. So I saw it. It absolutely wrecked me. It was one of my favorite theater experiences in the last, at least 5 years. Yeah. And it's a thing I couldn't stop thinking about. So when I even saw it on your list, I knew that I had to mark that as I will gladly talk about this play.
I was very happy about that. So full disclosure warning for listeners, because of the subject matter of this play and because of how I tend to speak on this podcast, there's some subject matter that might be triggering for people: sexual assault and abuse, grooming, things like that. But once we get over the content of my close friends on Instagram, we'll start talking about the play. But no, this is a very sensitive subject matter, and it's handled in a way that I think makes it incredible theatrical drama, which of course made it fodder for internet controversy.
Well, I'm curious. I guess I realized that the content of the play would be controversial or triggering for people, but I didn't know that the play itself was that there was any sort of fire and controversy around it, online or otherwise.
Yeah. Well, so the reason why this play was selected was twofold. One was it was requested by listeners.
You have good taste, listeners.
Yes. Well, so when I reached out to the people who choose to listen to this podcast and choose to follow me on Instagram, I said, tell me the shows that you find problematic or shows you would like me to cover for the series, even if you don't find it, but that other people do. So, some shows were submitted and some I agreed with, some I didn't, and I tried to stick to the shows that had more than one submission, and then I would ask people sort of their feelings behind it. So I think 3 people requested Downstate. One was like, I don't find it problematic, but I remember the controversy, and then I forgot about the controversy, which is just, stupid GOP politicians,
Oh,
like
of course, of
finding out
course.
just that it existed and being like, this is immoral and how dare they. And then I remember because I posted a review for it pretty soon after I saw it, and then like 4 months later, some fucking troll found my review and just like their one comment was like, a play about pedophiles, disgusting. And I was like, sure, yeah, no, absolutely. But you know, there are many things that are disgusting.
Well, what bothers me when a controversy like that happens, obviously this is from the GOP, this is like, you know, sort of bullshit controversy, but
Sure.
but even in one of your favorites, Carousel.
Oh,
When
we're
it's
talking
li-
about Carousel
Well,
again?
just for
No,
a second, just because I had to bring it up because I know it's your favorite thing
Yes.
in the world.
And also, I did not bring it up, everyone. Etai did.
I did. I brought it because it is one of my favorite things.
Yes.
And I think that the problem with a controversy around Carousel or a controversy around this, saying, "Oh, it's a play about pedophiles," and you're asking us to empathize with pedophiles, it's that argument like purports that these things don't exist.
Yeah.
That like abused women don't exist. That pedophiles don't exist and aren't actual human beings walking on this earth. And however uncomfortable that makes people, they are real. And choosing to sort of ignore that or cut it out does no one any service.
No. The best theatrical works should not leave you with answers. They should leave you with a conversation.
Yes.
And
this one is the ultimate conversation.
fuck yeah. Like, I wrote in my review last year, and I stand by it. I think this is the best American play since August Osage County. There have been some fucking baller American plays in the last, 15 years. What the Constitution Means to Me, Fat Ham, others.
Well, the last time I remember being this gripped was Ruined. Did you see Ruined?
I didn't see Ruined. That's Lynn Nottage, right?
Lynn Nottage,
Yeah.
and it also wrecked me, and it was in a way that I felt like, it's trite to say, but I felt like I'm no longer watching actors. I'm no longer watching a play. I'm inside of this, and I'm just seeing these people. But I would agree with you. It is one of the great American plays.
And I want to also connect this to another play that I love that I mentioned recently, just because subject matter-wise it's there, How I Learned to Drive, which is another play, Pulitzer Prize winner, by the way, by Miss Paula Vogel, who will be back this year in Mother Play. I know nothing about it, but it's Vogel, so I'm there. But it's... Have you seen How I Learned to Drive? Do you know?
No, I didn't get to see the last production.
Oh, right.
and
You were famously booked that season, so you couldn't see it.
I was a little busy
You were a little busy doing Sondheim on Broadway.
making out with Patti LuPone 8 times a week.
What a goddamn delight.
Yeah.
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 Do you sometimes look back on your last couple of years and go, I've done some things?
Yes. In fact, I told him because I did actually kiss Patti LuPone 8 times a week, but you would miss it if you blinked because it happened in the TikTok sequence. But I remember telling the producers like, well, if you had just told me this beforehand, I just would have done the show for free. But it is one of the great memories.
I'll bet she's a good kisser.
Oh yeah, she's good. She's not afraid.
She's Italian. She's not afraid of anything.
Oh yeah,
Except-
Sicilian.
Sorry. I learned
Important distinction.
I learned that from Sex and the City, actually. When Stanford meets Anthony, he goes, so, your last name, is that Italian? And he goes, Sicilian. And Stanford goes, is there a difference? And there's a long beat, and Anthony just goes, yeah. So I'll bet you that was based off of a conversation Michael Patrick King had with Patti LuPone.
Certainly was.
Absolutely. So Etai, for my uncultured fucks out there. Oh, another thing that, another reason why somebody submitted it, they felt that the pedophiles in this show, which, surprise, that's the main point of the show, they just felt there wasn't enough, I don't know if they said like comeuppance, but they just felt like there wasn't enough reckoning, which I think is important as a problem this person had with the play, because that's what we'll be talking about. But for the uncultured fucks, which is what I call people who listen to this podcast, what is Downstate about?
Downstate is about a home for what is it? It's not just pedophiles. It's
Sexual
offenders.
Yeah.
Who are registered sex offenders, and they are put by the state in a home because if they have nowhere else to go, and they are zoned to live there. And it's essentially somewhat like a very important day in the life of these people, and chiefly it deals with a man who is coming to confront his abuser. One of the abusers lives in this home. And we open with a man, Andy, who is there with his wife, and he's done a lot of therapy, and he has come to read a statement to confront and say everything he wants to say to his abuser, Fred. And then we go on from there. We learn about all of them, and some very harrowing things happen.
Yes. There's Dee, Gio, and Felix. Their PO, Ivy, and then Gio's coworker, Effie. And they all sort of intertwine, and we get a lot more information about exactly what it is each man in the home has done, what the penance that they had to pay afterwards. Obviously, they all went to jail for certain periods of time, and live in this home together now, and where they're at in their lives, and how they view themselves and each other, and the world at large. And I found out about this play. I didn't even know this play existed. I don't know I know what I was doing. I wasn't really thinking about theater at the time that I found out about this, but someone on Instagram reached out to me and they said, that Sally Murphy's in New York doing a play, right?
I was gonna bring up Sally Murphy.
You gotta bring up Sally Murphy.
I know, she's your gal.
She is my gal. And they're like, she's in a play in New York. I was like, she is? And they said, yeah, she's in this play Downstate. I was like, well, I must see. And I got a TDF ticket knowing nothing about it, saw it, had my mind blown, immediately told as many people as I could to see it. And then I know I got my mom to go see it, and then when my dad was in town, he asked if we could see it together, and I was like, I would happily see it a second time. That's the fucked up person I am. That I'm like, not only will I see this play a second time, I'll take my daddy. But I mean, I also sat through How I Learned to Drive with my mommy, and I saw Spring Awakening at the original company when I was a plumb 16 years old with my grandmother. This is just what I do.
This is a pattern.
Yes, exactly. I saw Barbie 7 times because I had to take both of my grandmothers separately to see it. I say had to. I offered that arm willingly.
What does it say about me that I saw Tar 4 times?
You don't believe in cancel culture. Yes, and you're just so enamored with lesbians. They're so foreign to you that you're like
super enamored with lesbians.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it. Kate Blanchett has the bone structure of a lesbian. It just makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
have no comment.
We move on. I've mentioned this on the podcast in the past, and I remember I was texting you about this last night, and I famously gave you no context for this. You're like, you'll have to explain yourself. But I said we would be talking a little bit about Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, I'm very curious as the bridge between Phantom of the Opera and Downstate by Bruce Norris.
It's there. First of all, if you go back and listen to the Phantom of the Opera episode, I discussed this. I have my own past with sexual trauma, essentially just discovering years later after the fact, I think once I was towards the end of college, just understanding that I had been textbook groomed by a voice teacher. I've just, I've been knowing this man for 4 years. Halfway through the 4 years of just slowly introducing the idea of him being a sexual prospect, and doing the whole gaslighting of oh, you're so intelligent, you're so special, you're so smart, you're smarter than your age, you're more mature than your age, and then waiting until I was 17 to make any move, make anything sexual, and make it believe that I was, making the choice and informed enough as a 17-year-old to make those kind of decisions to be intimate with him, which I was. They were my choices, but again, the age difference, the dynamic, it was no bueno, should never have gone. And we talk about this with Phantom of the Opera because, what is the main crux of that show but a gaslighting, gatekeeping, murderous voice teacher?
But this is before they made him fuckable. You're talking about the original conception of Phantom when it's Michael Crawford.
Except it's worse now that they've tried to make him fuckable, because I'm like he actually shouldn't be a romantic lead. He's the villain of the show. Yeah. He gets his redemption at the end just by learning that no matter how awful he's been, there is someone out there who's willing to lend a helping hand, which ultimately makes him understand the horrors that he has done. But that doesn't land when you have fuck me daddy leading man playing the role and genuinely trying to get Christine sort of into the idea. I'm no, she should always be horrified. What we learned from this experience and our connection to Phantom of the Opera is that I am an ingenue.
Of course. You can hit that note. I know you can.
I absolutely
I've
can.
heard it.
Yes, you have heard it.
I saw your Bat Boy.
You didn't see my Bat
Oh no,
Boy.
I was gone already. Damn it.
You were gone. My
Damn
Bat
it.
Boy is
But I
famous,
know
though.
that your Bat Boy happened, and it's
did
been
happen.
talked about.
It has been talked about. Guys, I don't know how to explain this to any of you. I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But only in a circle that's 5 feet wide.
But you are a legend in that circle.
Yeah. Honestly, I knew when I did Bat Boy, because I was the first, it was the premiere production at Stage Door, and I had gone all those years with you and all the other people who are far more successful than I am, and y'all wouldn't shut the fuck up about Bat Boy. It was like that, and like Urinetown were 2 shows that I was like, and last 5 years, they're like, when are they gonna do it, man?
And I know, and isn't it funny that like you then look back and some of these shows you realize later on, and as an adult, you're like, oh, they're not all that good. Some of them are not very good, but man, we were so obsessed with them.
Yeah. That's youth, though, and I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, I don't know what the Manor's like now. What I loved about the Manor when we were there was that it was that sweet spot of we kind of got to be insane with the shows and roles we played.
Yes.
Like, in no world should 16-year-olds be doing follies, but I loved that we did it.
I was Frederick in A Little Night Music.
You sure were, bitch. I saw that.
With a drawn-on mustache.
Girl, unlike you and my Bat Boy, I saw your Frederick. I loved that night music. That was the
thanks.
production that made me go, oh, I think this show is kind of perfect.
Yeah.
It was that show was so
I
good.
will always be your Frederick.
You'll always be, okay. Y'all, in case you want to know why we're so obsessed with the Manor, let me just spell this out for you. Of the productions that I've seen at the Manor and who was in them, there was the night music with Mr. Etai Benson. The 9, starring Skylar Astin with Shayna Taub.
Yep.
Soon to be Tony nominated for Best Score for Cephs,
Yes.
and possibly more, but that's the one thing I'm willing to put like $1,000 on right now. There was also Grand Hotel with Skylar. There was West Side Story that I did with Shayna. We were both sharks. We don't talk about it all that much.
I saw that one.
Yes, because you were in the Sweeney that year.
And Jeff Ward, right? Wasn't he in that?
He was.
Director of Danny and the Deep Blue Sea, currently off-Broadway.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was our action. Stage Door just has, a deep bench of fucking cool people. And so, yes, but I don't even know how we got here. We were talking about Downstate. Oh, and Phantom, all of this. Yeah,
Yes.
and trauma. We were talking about trauma.
Oh, right, trauma.
Yeah, which I'm sure, listen, everyone's got it in some form or another, right?
Yeah.
And it's more a matter of how you handle it, how you reckon with it, and how you move on with it. And not everyone is going to get a chance to confront the people that have wronged them. My groomer died during COVID, and if I had to write a book right now, it would be He's Dead and I'm Amazing. But also, our relationship was not necessarily that of the Phantom. It was more. It truly was more of the Mary Louise Parker and her uncle in How I Learned to Drive, where it's like only with distance do you realize the messed upness of the relationship. And yet that same person gave you so much in terms of like intellect and self-esteem, but then at the same time, and we'll talk about it with Andy in particular, and sort of
Yes.
one of the major things that's fucked him up with Fred, it's a double-edged sword with your self-worth. It's sometimes there are people in the world who make you smarter and more sophisticated and aware of the world, but then when there's a sexual component to it, it makes you second guess your own desirability as a human being. Like, was this person ever interested in me as a friend or human being? Was it always just to kind of
To lure you in and abuse you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you ever read The Tricky Part by Martin Moran?
No.
Okay, you know Martin Moran.
Yeah. Sure.
Of Titanic fame.
But of course.
And just incredible actor, artists, solo artist. And he wrote a play that won a bunch of awards, won the Obies and whatnot, and turned it into a book as well. It's called The Tricky Part, and it's about his experience being abused at a Catholic summer camp when he was 12, and had a relationship with this older man who was a counselor at that camp for many years. And then later on, I think something like 30 plus years later, tracked him down and confronted him and somehow learns to forgive him. And it's very much in conversation with Downstate and sounds like in conversation with some of your life experience. So
Yeah.
I think it would be cathartic for you to read it.
I would love to read that, yeah. The thing with me and the teachers, maybe it's just distance, that it doesn't affect me nearly as much. I had a much more harrowing experience a year ago that wasn't as abusive as grooming or anything like that. It was more emotional and whatnot. But and that has definitely left a deeper scar and has re-triggered all of the questions that came about for me in college after the first experience. But again, it was a very different kind of situation. Just the questions remain, and we'll get to those questions as we get deeper into this play. My listeners are tired of hearing me allude to Bub. They're like, either say the name or get off the pot. I'm like, I'm not saying the name, but y'all know that it happened. But what's so fascinating about this play also is like weirdly how funny it can be in a very twisted way.
Yes.
It's very Martin.
Well, the D character especially.
D fucking has some one-liners out there. And also, okay, I also got to say this. I was at the Drama League Awards last season, which is, a group that you pay to join and get to vote, and you get a free meal. And
it's a luncheon, right? It's the luncheon.
It's a 9-hour luncheon. It starts at 11 with cocktails and snacks, and then like at 1 they go, okay, we start the luncheon, and the luncheon goes till 5.
Oh my God.
I know. Well, because like they put all the nominees on a dais, and they have to all say a little something, and it's mostly supposed to be like, thank you so much for the nomination, I'm really appreciative. And then some people are actors, and some people are writers.
And it's very clear. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's very clear. But K. Todd Freeman was there.
Oh.
He was nominated for his performance in Downstate as D. Did not win. Neither did Stephen McKinley Henderson for Between Oversight and Crazy. That was where Annalee Ashford won for Sweeney Todd for distinguished performance.
Oh, they just give a performance.
They gave a performance out of like 90 nominees. And the year before it was Sutton. And I don't remember who was the distinguished year before that. But like, it's one of those things where you go, I don't buy this award, because it's more of, we love you, you have a good career here, it's a nice moment, here you go. Whereas I'm like, you can't tell me that after seeing Downstate, K. Todd Freeman did not give the performance of the year. And I told him as such. He was leaving, and I just stopped and was like, I just need you to know that Downstate was my favorite play this year, and you in particular were just fucking, you destroyed me. And he was very nice about it. I think that's a play that not a lot of people come up to him about. They're usually like, I saw you in Series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix.
Right. I saw you as Dr. Dillamond in Wicked.
He was Dr. Dillamond for a while.
I know, but I never crossed paths with him. And,
that's right.
And I wish I had. He's so brilliant.
You were Bick.
I was Bick.
Yeah.
I was Bick.
On the road and on Broadway, yes?
On Broadway, on the road. In San Francisco as well, in the sit-down. That was my first gig.
Didn't you have a blog when you were doing Wicked on the road?
Did I have a blog?
Or maybe you just post on your website?
No. In San Francisco, I did a guest blog because I was telling a story about eating. I ate a cheeseburger before the show that was not fully cooked and did not agree with me, and I puked.
And I read it.
Yeah.
I don't think we were in contact at the time. I think I don't know where it was shared. Maybe it was Facebook or what. But I was like, oh, I'd love to hear about Etai's experiences on the road. This will be a nice story. And then,
well, at that point, it was probably like LiveJournal or MySpace.
MySpace
back in the Stone Age. I don't know.
Girl,
I never really
we all gave up. Yeah, we gave up MySpace by the time you went off to Michigan. Come on, catch up with the kids. No, but very funny play. And the opening scene in particular really kind of sets the tone of the kind of laughs this play gets, because you have Andy and his wife Emily, and I have some opinions about them. I have a new opinion about Andy that I didn't realize until I was rereading it for this episode. In terms of let me get to it.
The humor is the darkest of the dark.
Yeah, well, because it's, as you said, it opens with Andy and Emily, Andy reading the letter that he's written to Fred, who is in a wheelchair. Yes,
and geniusly played by Francis Guinan.
Absolutely.
Who also provides some kind of, I mean, obviously it's intentional comedy, but this man who we understand very early on abused Andy when Andy was 12.
Yes.
This man, Fred, who's in a wheelchair, again, what do you picture when someone says abused a 12-year-old? We see a monster.
Yeah.
And this man may as well be Santa Claus. He's so jolly. He's folksy. Mm-hmm. He's like a gee whiz, golly gee. Oh, and
doesn't curse. Always wants to say the nicest things about people.
And that I remember like that made me laugh because this guy is trying to confess this really dark, horrible thing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, here, no, keep talking."
Especially
keep
because
talking,"
Andy's part of Andy's letter is like saying to is like I need to say to your face that you are fundamentally evil.
Evil, yeah.
And then he keeps getting interrupted because Emily's phone keeps ringing because they've like left their kid at the hotel with the babysitter,
right?
And all these other things, and Andy like keeps on. Not retracting, but like he's backpedaling a little bit, and every time I think the first time the audience like laughed, there were two laughs early that were kind of chuckles where everyone's like, "Are we allowed to laugh?" The first was when Emily's phone rang and Sally Murphy gets on the phone. She goes, "Yes, all right, but what did we say about the whiny voice?" And all the parents in the audience are like, "I know that."
Yeah. But then they start talking about video games.
Yeah.
Like, tell them that they're Smash Brothers on the TV.
Daddy says they have Smash Brothers on the TV, and then
meanwhile he's like telling this man that he's evil,
and like how he's always imagined killing him.
Yes.
And then like they hang up, and then the first real laugh the play got was Andy going, "Okay, where were we?" And Fred goes, "You had your gun in my mouth."
Oh, yeah, right. You had the gun in my mouth.
Yes. And he's like,
"Oh,
right.
Soft voice."
Yeah, because and Fred is definitely, I think, the character that perfectly represents what the play is trying to do, which is like it fucks with your sense of empathy.
Yes. This is my favorite plays. My favorite works of art are works of art that test your empathy.
Yeah.
That test it to the extreme. This is like, liberal America. We liberals, us on the left, we like to talk about empathy for the disenfranchised and empathy for this and empathy. And this is like the most logical extreme of how far will your empathy go. And the thing about this play is that it is somewhat like Clybourne Park, which I loved when I saw as well. There are arguments that happen, and it's the best drama because they are both right.
Yeah.
And you as an audience member, we love to very easily pick a side, and it is impossible to see this play and pick a side.
I think because in a lot of the arguments for me, I find myself aligning a little more with Andy's morality, but finding that Andy sucks as a human being, but I think that's what makes it compelling, because you want to stand with the people who you also like something that Sarah Silverman said once on a podcast, where like she had a friend who eventually got roped into alt-right Nazi propaganda and then eventually found his way out, and she's like, the way he found his way into it was he was a very lonely man and found a group that liked him and accepted him, and there was warmth, and people always go where the love is, and just want to go where people will accept them and like them and not judge them. And it's only until later that you realize, oh fuck, like this is what I've got myself into. There was actually a play that guest Rob Schneider mentioned in a few weeks ago that I realized is connected to Downstate because I was reading a note from the artistic director of Playwrights Horizons when they produced it, and he mentioned this play. It's called Aunt, Dan, and Lemon by Wallace Shawn. Oh. And it was a very dark comedy in the mid-'80s that the public did. And it was about a British woman who sort of, in a memory play, reflects on her youth where I think it's the 60s or 70s or whatever, but like it's sort of like a very twisted anti-mame. There's a family friend, Aunt Dan, short for Danielle, who is very eccentric and very smart and very, to quote Diane Keaton in First Wives Club, wonderfully verbal, and says all these wonderful stories, fascinating stories. And it's not until 30 minutes in you realize that Aunt Dan is a Nazi sympathizer. Wow. Yeah. And like post World War II, by the way. And Lemon's parents keep being like, no, like this, and it's not just Nazis, like Mussolini and all this shit, and just very like basically on the premise of all humanity is selfish and hateful and violent, and it's useless to pretend otherwise. And that's and like so Aunt Dan's like, I appreciate that the Nazis just open about it, and Lemon's parents are like, no, this is terrible, like you got to be empathetic. And because her parents are not articulate, every time they get into an argument with Aunt Dan about it, Aunt Dan always wins because she just knows how to talk and how to win Lemon over.
Yes,
so by the end, and so Lemon ends up kind of being a Nazi sympathizer by the end of the play. Yeah, in a very twisted way. And what Frank Rich said in his review was like, the play is absolutely not telling you that Aunt Anne was onto something. That's not the point of the play. The point of the play is to show you how these things happen.
Yes. Well, I'm so over everyone thinking that, like, the intention, like, matches the content.
Absolutely.
You know, that I'm so done with that argument. But what you mentioned about Aunt Anne and the reveal,
Yeah.
I think Bruce Norris just nails that here, which is the dropping of the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And the, like, the characters are so well written, they're so human that you cannot not fall in love with them, you know,
Yeah.
in a way. And then he drops these bombs. Felix, for example. We'll get there. But
We can talk about Felix. But before we do that, we got to take a break.
Billy, I beg to differ with you.
How do you mean?
You're the top.
Yeah?
You're an arrow color. You're the top. You're a Coolidge dollar. You're the nimble tread of the feet of Fred.
And we're back. That was a good break. If we're gonna get into Felix, we absolutely needed that
Yeah, we need
quick
a breather.
We also have a little bit of rosé.
Yes, I need it to be topped
Yeah.
up if we're about to talk about Felix.
Etai, let's not talk about how
We don't talk-
I'm not going to top you off on camera. That's on
Camera.
That's on OnlyFans, Etai. No, so yes, we have our four gentlemen. We have D, Fred, Felix, and Gio. We've gotten a little bit of information about Fred. We haven't even gotten fully about Fred. We'll get more about him in a second, and D as well. Let's talk a bit about Felix, because Felix, of the four of them, has the least amount of stage time, and
Yes.
in my opinion, commits the absolute worst sins of the four of them.
Yes, he is the most, I guess you'd say, deplorable of them, of what he has done.
Yes.
And he is desperately trying to atone for what he's done, and you feel his anguish. I mean, I remember from the actor, I forget his name who played him, but he just every time he appeared, and he says very little. He also speaks a lot in Spanish, and he prays in Spanish. But when he just I think he enters the stage with like a snack or something, and then his room is behind this like accordion wall, and you just see like a crucifix and a bed, and he just shuts himself and closes himself in, and you know this man is going through some shit. We don't know what he did, but we learn that he has like broken. He has broken the it's not parole, but he's broken like the parameters of what he's supposed to do. He's gone to the library. He's not supposed to go to the library. He's gone on the internet. These men are not allowed on the internet.
Yeah.
He's gone on Facebook. Yep. He has reached out to family. He's not supposed to reach out to this family for specific reasons.
Yeah.
We start sympathizing with him. He says his sister has cancer. He's not allowed to leave where he lives, but he needs to go visit her. Maybe can I get permission to go visit my sister before she dies? So Bruce Norris is eliciting all of this sympathy for this man. He clearly he's done something terrible, but the man should be able to go see his sister who's dying, right?
Yeah.
And then he drops the bomb.
Yeah. So it's also the tension of the scene because, this is towards the end of the first act. We begin with Fred in that whole scene, and then eventually Andy and Em leave. I also just want to make something, another moment where the audience laughs at that opening scene is after Andy finishes his, letter, and Emily's just sort of all over him. She's like, "Have you said what you need to say? Did you get it done?" Like, just very helicoptery.
Yes.
And then Fred's basically like, "So if that's," and Emily goes, "I wrote a letter," and and both she and Andy are terrible writers. Like Emily begins her letter and goes, "I am a mother, and a daughter, and a niece, and a sister, and a cousin," and I'm like,
but most of all, I am a mother.
It's
She said, if I had to choose between the life of my husband and my child, it's very easy what I would choose, and her husband's sitting right next to her.
and he's like agreeing the entire time. He's like, absolutely. And she goes even further. She's like, if there was a burning building, there'd be no question of who I would pick. Again, like someone needs to go in there and be like, Emily, sweetie, you need a ghostwriter. But we move on. Eventually, their PO Ivy comes in to do a group information session. She has 40 something other offenders that she sees on a weekly basis, so this is like their one weekly meeting, and you also already sort of get like the dynamic of those four men with Ivy, and it's clear that she pretty much despises all of them on a moral level, but there are some who make her job easier. Like Fred makes her job easy. He's very, he listens,
He's affable. He asks about her family.
Yeah.
He clearly knows about her
yes.
family.
And she gives him information, which, she doesn't have such contempt for him. Obviously, she knows what he did in that and hates him again on a moral level for that. So he's not a friend by any means. But of the four of them, he's the one that she likes the most. Then probably D, although he's a pain in her ass, and we'll get to the whole D of it all. And then Gio and Felix definitely are, the ones that probably are the biggest thorn in her sides. Felix in particular, he's hard to pin down. He always is holed up in his room. Gio, we'll get to Gio.
Yes.
But yeah, so once they're done, Ivy says, Felix, I need you to stay back. Everyone goes back, Fred has to go to work now. Dee goes into the kitchen. Gio's off to work as well. And she goes, Felix, we have to talk. And she sets up a camera so you already know, something's going down. And she just begins very subtle questioning. Where were you Tuesday? I was at work. Okay, and she keeps on needling him.
It's a cross-examination.
1,000%. And she keeps needling him. And you're not sure what it is she's getting at until she mentions the library and the internet. Like, the bomb you expect to drop is like he went off and he did something terrible.
He went to a playground. He went to whatever.
Yeah. And you're waiting for that, and you just find out he went online and he says, I just tried to book a flight to go to Texas to see my sister. She's dying. She's got cancer. And it's so fascinating reading the play and seeing the play, which is that's how it's always supposed to be. But I remember seeing it and being like, stop making this poor man cry, again, like playing with your empathy. And I'm reading it and I'm going, there's something he's not saying here. And it's not just that I know where the bomb is, but like Felix, basically all these men except for Fred play the victim in terms of their lives and their wrongdoings of what happened to them and the punishment that they've had. Felix,
and Ivy sort of calls them out for it.
Every
She says,
time,
all of you are the victim.
Yeah. And that's the thing of the whole play. Everyone's the victim.
Everyone is a victim.
Everyone is a victim in some way. And it doesn't matter what they say or do after the fact. It doesn't balance out, how wronged they've been. And when Ivy keeps needling Felix about what he did and trying to get all this information out of him, because he first won't admit he went to the library. He plays dumb.
Yeah.
And then he won't admit to going online. He plays dumb. Eventually, he has to be forced to admit truths. And he's only saying half-truths. And he's doing that thing that impulsive liars do, which is they incorporate enough of the truth so they can believe the lie.
Yes.
And the lie can make sense. Yeah. But he is still lying. And then the real bomb gets dropped, which is he sexually abused his daughter. How far is up for you to decide. But the line in which, I won't quote the line, but I'll just say, Ivy's the one who explains exactly what happened with one line. And all it is that Felix went on Facebook and contacted his daughter, essentially. And the reason why he wants to visit his sister, in his words, is she's the only one in his family who still talks to him. She's the only one who thinks that there's good in him.
She's the only person who doesn't hate him.
Yes, despite everything he did. And when Ivy says, you can't contact your daughter, this. He goes, I love my daughter. And she goes, you've got a funny way of showing it. And he goes, I love my daughter, and God knows I love my daughter. And then Ivy has a line where she compares, that love to the love her husband has with the dog.
With the golden retriever.
Yes, yeah. And she goes, but there's something he doesn't do with the golden retriever that you did with your daughter. And if you want to know what it is, you can read the play. I don't want to say it on mic. And it's just one line, and that is the bomb. And all sympathy you had for this man goes away, especially when you realize it's his daughter's 15th birthday. He's probably been in this home for the better part of a year now. This is post-jail. So imagine how
young she would have been.
Exactly. It is
what
horrifying.
What the play does so well, too, is sort of reckon with the fact, or ask the question of, when do we see this as a sickness?
Mm-hmm.
And when do we not? When is... Again, it goes back to how far will your empathy go? Mm-hmm. Is this a sickness, a compulsion that these people can control or cannot control? And yes, it is their fault, but it also isn't their fault. It's asking all of those. It provides zero answers because there are no answers to that.
No.
But the word sickness comes up a lot in the play.
Yeah. And the play also asks... So I was trying to find some research on the play of its origins and what made Bruce Norris write this. I was one of the few people that was not as enamored with Clybourne Park when it came out. I think because by that point it had won the Pulitzer, it won the Tony. Everyone was like, my God. So I saw it. I was like, sure. It was nice. I'm a big Jeremy Shamos fan, so I was like, nah. But with this one, I think this play is even more profound than Clybourne Park and wasn't even a Pulitzer finalist, let alone the winner.
Oh,
Garbage
all the awards, come on.
Whatever. The flick won the Pulitzer. Garbage mama. But the thing about it is, as we've been saying, it plays with your empathy, right? And it has no answers. But one of the other questions that Norris asks is, when is it enough punishment? Like, when has someone been punished enough?
Yes.
And the one thing I did find of him talking about this was, I think, when it was premiering at Steppenwolf, because this was a Steppenwolf original
production,
that then went to the National before coming to New York. And he said it kind of started right after the Me Too movement. And he goes, and I'm not saying this because I have anything against Me Too. He's like, I love the movement. He goes, but I recognize that after the 2016 election, there was so much anger in the country just of, how we ended up here. And people were channeling that energy into anything. And, a lot of really important movements were happening, but with the kind of vitriol that I started to question if they even wanted justice, if they just wanted vengeance. And so he goes, I was interested in that. He goes, and I didn't want to tackle Me Too because I found there was far too much importance and good there to really have a nuanced discussion that everyone could really question. He goes, so I really thought, like, what's the worst situation? He goes, and it's like pedophilia or sex offenders. And the more he researched, the more he realized, like, that is a part of the criminal justice system that, like, we have, not only have we yet to fix, like, it seems we have no interest in fixing. Like, what we've done is enough to a lot of people in the country, which is basically, put them away. And then should they ever leave jail, because a lot of, not even sex offenders, but pedophiles in particular, a lot of pedophiles don't ever leave jail because they tend to get murdered while they're in there.
Jail. Yeah, they are the top target.
Yes. It's like, and which is mentioned briefly in the play as well.
Well, one of the things, one of the early scenes when we were first introduced to Ivy, she holds a meeting with all of the men in the house, and she explains to them that a new ordinance in the town has been passed, and that they have now expanded the zone in which they cannot be. They can't be present, so they can't. And the new zoning, the new lines here means that they can't shop at the grocery store that they shop at.
Yeah.
And it also includes, because it's close enough to a school, even though there's a highway between them, and it's a school for mentally disabled children.
It's like 2 feet within half a mile.
Yes.
And there's a highway in between.
But the town decided that it's close enough that these men can't go shopping at the IGA.
Yeah.
So they now have to find a way to get to Big Lots, but there's no bus that will get them to Big Lots. They also don't have money. They can't afford Ubers. They can't. And again, it's sort of institutionalized vengeance and punishment.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say whether you can agree with it or not. It's like you said, it's a problem that is too confusing to even approach. It's too confusing to even try to, like, advocate for. Who's going to go and advocate for these people? But they are people.
Yeah.
They are human beings, and that's what he's getting at.
To say nothing, by the way, of the dozen phone calls they get every day of just full death threats. Like, they don't, to the point they don't answer the phone anymore. For the first act, the phone will ring from time to time, and they just never answer it. And that's one of the many interruptions when Andy is trying to read his letter, in addition to people coming in and out of the home, that is both comical and frustrating. And then he learns in Act 2, and we'll get to why Andy's there in Act 2. But, Dee says to him, oh, yeah, we don't answer the phone anymore. It's just always somebody threatening to kill us.
Yes.
And then anytime someone throws something through the window, like their window is taped up, and he's like, what happened there? He goes, Andy, and just imagine K. Todd Freeman, y'all, with the most deadpan, like flipping through a magazine, saying like, "Oh yeah, that was a shotgun," and Andy says, "A shotgun? Like, what? Like, was it through an act of anger?" And he was like, "Well, I don't think it was a gesture of goodwill."
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the kind of humor.
Yeah, and he's like, you know, once a year when we're very lucky, there's a burning cross on our lawn.
Yeah,
and it's true, like, you know, for everything that's already making their lives difficult, being the social pariahs and only being able to find the most low-paying jobs possible. The only reason they have this house is the church nearby. Like it was a former community center for them that's dilapidated, so they like did a half-assed attempt to make it livable, and quote unquote out of the goodness of their heart, and that's it. So like no one who actually lives around them wants them to be there.
Yeah.
So
I'm not surprised that it was sort of Me Too that inspired this, mainly because the way he deals with like the way the not only the law but just our institutions, our reactions, our emotional reactions, the internet especially, which we don't really get in this play much because they can't be on the internet, but the way that, especially in the immediate fire of Me Too, started sort of equating every case.
Yeah.
Because there needed to be a change. But in this, each of the men who are living in this house have done very different things, but they are subject to a very similar punishment.
yes,
So you have Gio, for example, who, again, he had sex with a minor. What he explains is that she had a fake ID that said she was 17, which would have made her legal. The state is not concerned with that. And again, it makes you question the system.
Yeah.
Is that the same as a man who raped his own daughter when she was very young? I think most people would agree that it is not.
Yeah.
Horrible as it all may be.
Yeah.
And we are forced to make those distinctions in this play.
Yeah. The thing with Gio is he has a sense of self-importance and his own hatred of everything around him, because he's also a very God-fearing man, which he has imparted onto Felix as well. And so he definitely, as you said, like there is obviously a line between the two offenses, but there's also, I feel like there's a hint in there with Gio where it's like, this is not a one-time thing with him. Because he has his coworker, Effie, who is also in high school.
Right,
and
right.
we're meant to at first believe that they're just coworkers. She picks him up, drives him there. She's got her own deal. But, she comes back to their house to have pizza with him, possibly play bridge with him and Felix later. But, like, they go into his room later, and when they're confronted with the idea that, like, they're hooking up, they go, "Oh, ew, no, that we would never do that. How dare you?" But it's also like, you're not going in there to talk about the weather. Yeah. You're going in there probably to fuck. And, like...
Or are we watching him grooming her?
Yeah,
also,
or like if is the woman, the young woman that he went to jail for, was that the first woman? Were there others before her? Is this does Gio tend to go for underage girls? Is it truly the like dark side of Matthew McConaughey and Dazed and Confused of like he gets older, they stay the same age, and he keeps going for that? Again, that's something that I know in my own experience. Many years later, and I can't ask this question now because the man's dead. Deader than Barbara Bel Geddes, everybody. And if you get that joke, you listen to the first episode with Rob Schneider. But you always question if you were the special case or if you were one of many. And most plays that deal with this kind of subject matter, there's some information given to ease your mind with that. Like with Fred, that Andy was not the only one. There was another boy. There could have been others, but we were made to believe it was just those two. How I Learned to Drive, you find out that Lil Bit's not the only family member that her uncle ended up abusing. Gio, who knows? I feel like Norris is implying that this was not an anomaly. This was a regular occurrence with him, and it's sort of happening again with Effie. Felix, also who knows? But, that's the great area that I love about this play and where it sort of lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Gio also, I don't know, it's crazy. Like there is this undercurrent of violence that you get from Gio every time he speaks, because he and Dee butt heads so much, and he has this this anger and this hatred of everyone else in the house and this importance about himself. And then ultimately, when everything does turn violent at the end, he's not the reason, yet he is the one that gets dragged away.
Right.
It's, I don't know. It's just a very fascinating thing.
But even his, like, there's a threatening menace about him. And even the way he talks to this woman, Effie, you can see that there is some malice towards women. And but also then when he sees Andy, he does this big code switch and he becomes, he thinks that Andy is there for financial purposes. He doesn't really know who Andy is.
Yeah, he has no idea.
But he assumes, he sees this, like, well-to-do white man, and he thinks he's with, like, the bank or something. He thinks he's there to deal with Fred's financials, and so he starts kind of pushing himself as, like, I have these ideas. I'm an entrepreneur. I work at Staples currently. His whole, like, his language changes.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. But even in that, he's so pushy, and so there's even, like, a threatening in those conversations where he's being really polite.
I wish I'm simply too wired / buzzed to look through the play right now. But, like, if every time he speaks in he overspeaks the entire play. But with Andy, you're right, it is very specific because there is no violence or anger in there. It is very kowtowing, and he is exaggerating his vocabulary, not to show off any kind of intelligence, but to overplay his hand of who he is and where he's at and where he's going. Like, basically the way he just describes it, like, he counts inventory at Staples. That's what he does.
Yes.
And the way he like, those words were like, what, 4 words, 5 words? He takes that and makes it like 30 words in a sentence, which actually, when you do that, it shows less intelligence because...
Yes. Well, then we also learn through Effie that he's a terrible employee.
Yeah.
So his whole, like... It's you realize he's just a bullshit artist.
Absolutely.
And he's doing anything he can to, like, to like change his position and get out of his situation.
Yeah, because all he hears, as you said, about Andy is that he works at a bank, which isn't even true. Like, basically, Andy is like a wealth consultant. Is what he won't say. Because he keeps saying, like, I'm helping people. And he's like, and he admits, like, yes, my clientele tends to be wealthy. It's like, yeah, you're not actually helping people. You're helping the rich get richer. Yeah. Which, like, if that's what you do, that's what you do. But
even that, he tells about it in terms of his trauma. So he talks about how, well, I lost. Yeah.
Let us put a pin.
Is that a pin?
That is a pin. I have a whole thing I want to talk about with Andy. I've got a chapter, baby. Yeah. But with Gio, he's like, there's a joke in there somewhere where he's talking to Andy in Act 2 when Andy comes back, and he's bullshitting about, like, his plans for the future and, like, the company he wants to make and how he's, already figuring out the, like, growth for the future and with the product that he'll make. And Andy goes, okay, great. It's like, what's the product? And Gio's like, haven't thought of that yet.
Right.
And it's like, and it's so funny how he thinks Andy's like Tim Cook, and Andy is like Tim Cook's accountant. Yeah. He's not actually, he can't actually help him other than maybe, like, give him a couple $100.
But he's a pusher. He's scrappy. He's really doing whatever he can.
He's a pusher, Katie. He's a pusher. What is something you would like to note on with Downstate? You have notes there. What's something
I do? Well, this is a personal note.
Please do.
Is that my experience with this play changed massively between when I saw it and when I just reread it. Because when I saw it, I was not a father, and now I am a father. And reading it as a father is a completely different experience because I now have this child that I'm obsessed with who drives me nuts. He's 5 months old. But you have this child and you are changed molecularly. I can feel, even when he's screaming at me, when he's screaming in my face, and I'm just saying, go the fuck to sleep, please go the fuck to sleep. I can feel in my blood and in my cells that I will do anything for this creature. I will die for this creature. I will kill for this creature. I will do anything to keep this little guy safe. And so reading some of these descriptions, and they're very very light, actually. They don't, they're crass sometimes, especially when Dee says some things. And, but it doesn't go into like great detail. But I can't help but imagine what if someone did that to my kid.
Yeah.
And as again, testing the limits of empathy, I would like to think that I've seen this play. These characters are human. They are like, he forces you to fall in love with them and then drops these bombs. But had any of them touched my child, all bets are off for me.
Sure.
I can't pretend like I am so morally pure that I wouldn't seek vengeance.
Yeah.
And revenge. And that the idea of vengeance really, really hit me this time in a way that I understood theoretically when I saw the play, but when I read it and with this new experience of being a dad, I mean, it's different. Andy is talking for himself, not for his child, but like Andy also is a new father in the play, relatively new. Or no, not that new. No, right.
His kid's like 7 or 8.
No, but he says that he started having panic attacks when he had a child.
Yes. Well, it's very unclear with Andy, and this is again part of the whole chapter of him.
Yes.
It's unclear when he told Emily about what happened to him, because he only started going to group therapy, survivors group therapy, like a year prior or something like that. Like it seems as if he kind of came to the reckoning within the last year. And he says in his letter, once my child was born, then as you said, like I started having these panic attacks. Something sort of latent within him that has kept him up at night alone. And as he has said, like, has destroyed my life. Like, Fred has destroyed my life. And, well, yes.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great
How do you talk about this shit?
Well, this is a great transition into Andy. This is what I love about it, by the way.
Yes.
So Andy is early to mid 40s, let's say, married, supposedly happily, but who knows, with a kid, a good job, has money, has a very nice car, has all the new gadgets, all these things. And Norris is very clever about subtly hinting for Act 1 and the first half of Act 2, like just how stable Andy's life actually is, and the comforts that he has that is in direct contrast to these 4 characters. When Emily reads her letter, and she says, "How do I explain to my child why Daddy is sad sometimes? Why he'd rather sit in the dark than play PlayStation?" And I'm like, you didn't have to say that. You say, "Why is Daddy sad sometimes? Why does he walk away rather than play with me?" But no, they have a PlayStation, probably the newest one, connected to a TV screen that's 4K.
They bring up his iPhone X a couple of times, which was the newest model at the time.
It was, and then the Audi, whatever he's got,
right.
and at one point, towards the end of the play, when all shit hits the fan, and Emily has to be there to sort of pick up Andy because Andy's been detained by the police, and she's shouting she's like, "How much longer are we supposed to be here? I've got a child in a hotel with no one with him but a babysitter."
Yeah,
and I'm like,
such a good line.
Yeah. To which I'm also, and her name's Maria, someone that they clearly have known. So I'm like, it's your nanny. You have a nanny.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know Dax Shepard has always said on Armchair Expert. Like when Monica, his co-host and friend, started being in their lives, she was essentially their nanny. And because he grew up poor, he always was uncomfortable calling her that, especially also because she became their friend. Yeah. And there was a point of contention. He was on a talk show at one point and said the babysitter, and Monica was like, "I'm not your babysitter." He was like, "I don't know what it is. I've got the weird word about the word nanny."
Well, I can tell you right now, because my wife and I, this is a shameless plug, we're about to play opposite each other at the Paper Mill in Fiddler on the Roof.
I plugged you an hour ago, Etai. It's not shameless.
Oh, great. Well, it's not shameless if you plug me, but if I plug myself, it's pretty shameless.
Don't shame people's OnlyFans, Etai.
Anyway, so the reason I brought it up, is that we are now dealing with, this is the first time we are both working while having a child in our lives that we have to keep alive. And childcare is fucking expensive.
Sure is.
It's eat up half of what we are earning for this job. I
Yeah.
mean, it's wild. So anyone who has a nanny or a night nurse or like constant babysitting, immediately oh, they got money.
Yeah, they got money. And first of all, I also whenever you guys have like your first like 10 out of 12 or whatever, I dare Sosha to go up to the director and be like, how much longer do we have? I've got a child at home with no one with him but a babysitter. Like I with all the gumption in the world.
I'll do it.
You can do it with holding her Birkin bag or whatever. Like she's like Emily's also like she's a yoga instructor. It's this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's all the things on social media that if they were not dealing with the trauma that Andy's dealing with, you would see them on social media and you would roll your eyes at them. Like they are that well-off white couple.
Yes.
Andy. So as we sort of discussed, when Andy was 12 or 13, they have flipped back and forth on the age once or twice. I'm going to say 12. I think at one point Dee and Fred said 13, but whatever. Andy was abused by Fred. Basically, Fred performed a sexual act on him as his piano teacher, and we also learned that Fred did the same thing to a younger student, Tommy, who and then made Tommy perform the same sexual act on him, but didn't do it to Andy. And when Andy and Emily are first there, Andy has this contract that he wants him to sign, which is not actually legal. It's basically from therapy of, you didn't admit to everything you said that you actually did in court. I want you to admit to it now and sign it, and like that will give me my closure, which is already proving to me that Andy's group therapy is bullshit, because there's no one thing that gives you closure. Closure comes from you. Like you have to decide to close that chapter at some point. And who knows if Andy has always been this way, if it's been triggered, but he comes back in Act 2, quote unquote, having forgotten his phone. Act 2 opens with Andy and Dee alone while Fred is at work. Andy has his phone and is sitting there watching a game. You eventually learn that he has lied to his wife about where he's at.
Yes, that's one of the first big clues as to the nature of their marriage, because he picks up the phone and it's clearly Emily, his wife, on the other line, and he says, "Oh yeah, no, I'm at the bar. We're just watching a game."
Yeah.
There's shame there, but there's lies.
Yeah.
And it makes you immediately start to question, oh, is he an unreliable narrator, an unreliable victim here?
Yeah.
And that will come into play.
Yeah, well, also because, so, they leave because of all the hullabaloo, and then when Ivy's there's a major red flag when in the middle of their meeting, she hears a phone, and she goes, "What? Whose phone is that? You're not supposed to have a cell phone." And they realize, oh, this is Andy's phone. And Fred's like, "Oh, I'm sure he'll come back for it." And Fred goes off to work. And so Act 2 begins many hours later, and it's Dee and Andy alone. And Andy's watching the game on the couch. And Fred's not there. Fred's at work. Andy could have just come, picked up the phone, and gotten the fuck out of there. But he sticks around. And again, as you said, lies to Emily. It says to her, like, "Oh, he wasn't home. Yeah, I got it. I'm just at the bar now. I want to decompress. And I'll probably be home late. I won't wake you." And Andy and Dee have this very long conversation about child rearing, about marriage, about Dee's own relationship that got him into... I say relationship because that's what Dee calls it.
Yes.
That's a whole other conversation, which we'll get to, because Dee, again, is a whole chapter.
Yes.
But, Andy keeps talking in circles about his own life, his own child, the trauma that he has felt. Andy keeps centering everything back towards him. It's not about... justice, as we were talking about. It's not even about vengeance. It's just about like legally declaring Andy was the victim, and he wants everyone to know. He wants that to be made certain. His life is destroyed,
and that he be believed.
Yes, that because he said there's a line where he goes, "No victims ever lie. All victims tell the truth.
All victims tell the truth,
and our memories are crystal clear." That's the other thing, because he says, I remember everything about that moment vividly. And again, this is where we're talking about him being an unreliable narrator. Eventually we learned that Andy was in a particular spot in his life when Fred abused him. His father had died rather recently. He was a sensitive child. He clearly had grown to love Fred as a mentor and as a friend. Fred had told him that he was special, that he had a gift, which Fred very earnestly says, like, you were special. And then what makes Andy even angry, he goes, you said the same thing to Tommy. He goes, you were both special.
Yeah.
Like, you were both prodigies at piano. What do you want me to tell you?
Not only that, he says, why did you lie?
Yeah.
Why did you lie to me? You said it to him too. I think I wrote that down at some point.
And
yeah, you said I was special, but you said the same thing to Tommy. Why did you lie to me? You told him the exact same thing.
And Fred's answer is, no, that wasn't a lie. You both were special. Now, here's the thing. It's because Tommy's also important here. We learn a little bit about Tommy because Fred actually knows a bit what's happened to Tommy in his life, whereas he's known nothing about Andy. Andy contacted Fred.
Yes.
After many years, he finds him online and makes it a point to reach out, writes him a letter, finds out where he lives, all these other things. And not only does that, drives down to see him, comes back again and waits around for him. Tommy has probably made no contact with Fred, but Fred has been able to learn about what's going on with Tommy. Tommy now lives in Paris and has a husband, which Andy wants to make clear. Tommy also got married to a man.
To a man.
To a man. It's, from all accounts, it seems that Tommy has been able to live with the trauma and not have it define him, has been able to move on to an extent, as far as one can, and live the best life that he can. And a true life. Underline a true life. Because Tommy is queer. I never picked up on this when I saw the play. I picked up on this when I read it. I wonder if there is a queer component to Andy's sexuality that is just fully squashed because of the assault that happened to him at that age, and then him just choosing never to...
Like, that maybe would have flowered.
If this did not have happened, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say because I again, having read Marty Moran's book, he is a gay man, but he also talks about men who were also abused by the same person as kids who marry women and have children and were decidedly heterosexual. It's so hard to say, but it's definitely hinted at.
Yeah.
And I think the key here is that there's envy, there's jealousy of Tommy.
Yeah.
Of why I thought you loved me. What Andy wants is love.
Yeah. Well, and so this is where I actually will get a little explicit just because it's important here. According to the records and Fred and Dee, when Fred abused Andy, what it was he performed fellatio on Andy. Andy claims that then Fred made him perform fellatio on Fred, which Fred said that's not true. I made Tommy do that, and I admitted to that in court, and that's what happened. And Andy keeps saying, no, you made me perform oral sex on you, and I remember every detail. And Dee says, okay. He goes, I help Fred in the bath every day. Been doing it for years now. He goes, so tell me, if you remember every detail crystal clear as you say, is Fred circumcised? And Andy can't answer.
Yeah, and I think in the stage directions it says he doesn't know.
He doesn't know. And that whole combustion in his head leads to a myriad of questions that I don't think Andy's willing to look at the moment. So the question is, was he was he conflating that trauma with Tommy's trauma? Was there a part of him that was jealous of the fact that Tommy's trauma went to an extent that his never did, that maybe he secretly wanted, not with Fred, but with another boy? Yeah. These are things to ask, and they're awful, disgusting questions when you put it in context of a child. This is why I think everyone should also watch Big Mouth on Netflix, a wonderful sex-positive show that asks all of these questions in a healthy manner at a time when we all could have really used it. Yeah. 12 to 15 is a very odd time because we also look at 12 as more innocent an age than it actually was.
No, oh my gosh. Yes, you're right. We do see it that way, but it is not. When I think back on what kids were doing in middle school.
Yeah, and just saying outwardly, like, I was very innocent at 12 just because I didn't do anything. I wasn't looking at porn or anything like that. And I was also grappling with my own sexuality. I knew very clearly I did not like girls the way that other boys liked girls, but I didn't know what that meant yet because I wasn't truly thinking sexually yet. The boys around me were talking about shit that, like, would make people blush. And again, this was fucking 6th grade. So it's not as if, all American humble apple pie kids are riding on their bikes being like, what sex?
Yeah, no, yeah. It's
What?
not like Andy Griffith, like
Yeah.
Opie or whatever.
Exactly. Because I'll tell you what, Ron Howard on that set probably getting some in real life. That's what you learn from all these tell-alls, right? Like these kids in Hollywood on the sets of these wholesome shows. Like they're like, yeah, then I went to my trailer and banged a couple of hookers. I was only 11. My stamina was building, and it's like, the fuck.
Do you watch It's Always Sunny? Have you ever watched It's Always
Oh,
Sunny?
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't watched it in a while, but I watched up until like season 13.
Well, there is an episode that it's
With Dennis and the librarian.
and is it the librarian? Is it I thought it was a teacher. Maybe it's a librarian who like they found out was an abuser, and then they're jealous. They're like, well, why didn't he ever?
Oh, that was the coach. Yeah.
The coach.
Yeah,
why
it
didn't
was.
he ever?
It was. It was the McDoyles. Is that their name? The McCoyle. The McCoyle. They claimed that a coach abused them, and the other guys, not Dennis, Mac and Charlie were like. I think Charlie was abused, and
he's like, well, I'm cute. I'm
yeah,
cute. Why didn't he?
I was a cute kid. Yeah,
They're like jealous. They're jealous, and it's
Exactly.
like done in a crass, hilarious way. But like the actual truth behind it is in this play too.
Yeah.
Is,
Well, because then you find out that Dennis actually was like did have statutory rape, like because Dennis has written down every sexual encounter he's ever had, like in a very steamy graphic novel sort of way.
Right.
And he describes the day he lost his virginity to the school librarian, who was like 55 when Dennis was 15.
Right.
And they're like, girl, you got statutory raped. And Dennis is like, what? No, she was a Mrs. Robinson. She just seduced me. They're like, no. This is a 40-year age difference. Like, this is not what you think it is. You were assaulted, dude. But yes, It's Always Sunny is also a great show in that respect, because like they do tackle this kind of shit, but because all the main characters are such deplorables.
They're so awful. Yeah.
Awful.
And they never change, and it's so good.
Yeah, they don't accept.
so good.
Yeah, they never change. They don't ever accept the hardships of their mental states or their situation, and it works in a lot of ways. And they're also just such good actors.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, when Mac and Dennis moved to the suburbs, and Mac is like, you don't hear that beeping sound? Newsflash, asshole! I've been hearing it the entire time. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I hate you.
But what's her name? Katie Olsen is the secret weapon.
Oh, Sweet Tea?
She
Absolutely.
is Sweet Tea. She is maybe the funniest of them all.
She's amazing.
Anyway,
Andy.
Yeah.
Yes, Andy's sexuality, something that I always assumed that like repressed homosexuality was something that really only happened in the Midwest with, certain people of certain religions. I've since learned that it happens everywhere of people of any walk of life. With Andy and that whole storyline, the question for me has always been like, when did the problems actually start? I feel like there's a more interesting narrative for those two, where they meet, it's nice, it's sweet, it's wholesome, like they're able to kind of make it work for a while, and then somewhere when they maybe got in too deep, the problems arose. When those problems happen and they just get worse, and she eventually learns what happened to Andy in his youth, that's the answer. That's the answer to our problems. It's because this happened.
Yeah,
it's not
so
because of anything
you need
else.
to go deal with it. I mean, I would not be shocked if she's the one who said, you need to join this group, this therapy group, and then you need to you need to go and well, I mean, she doesn't really want to be there with him.
Yeah, she says to him, I didn't want to be here in the first place. I'm sure I do believe she's the one who's like, find a therapy group.
Yeah.
And then
that'll fix it.
Yeah. And then, but also like I'm sure even though she didn't want to come, she probably did insist on being there with him. Like, you're not going alone. And part of it is, I'm your partner, I'm here to support you, but it's also like, fuck no. Like, I'm always with you. Remember, like, they bring their nanny with them to watch the kid so that way they can do this together.
And she's also like sort of policing him as he does it.
Yeah.
But it's what's great, and like the best plays, these are all tiny hints that are never explicitly stated, as far as like, we don't get a history of their relationship. We don't know. We have to fill in those blanks, and they can be filled in any which way. Mm-hmm. Especially if you are putting on this play and rehearsing it, you could talk for hours and hours about their history, and that'll inform the performances. And I'd be fascinated to know what they came up with, what those actors came up with. Let's call Sally.
I would love to. Are you kidding me? I now have so many 6 degrees of Sally Murphy in my own life, and I have met her, but I don't personally have any of her information.
No. I did a 1-day table read that she was there for, and I geeked out.
As well you should have. She's the original princess of Man of No Importance. She's very important to this world.
Yeah.
We talked about Andy a little bit. There is a line that D has, which will eventually translate into D. When all the shit hits the fan, not literally, but kind of. When Fred comes back and Andy, has his second reckoning with Fred and ultimately doesn't want forgiveness. He doesn't want anything other than he doesn't even want vengeance. He basically just was like, I came back to stick the flag in the land of my victimhood. I want it legally established. And we have this circumcision moment, which is there are certain moments in theater when an entire audience just goes and when Dee asks that question, everyone just goes
gut-wrenching moment. Yeah.
But it ultimately leads to eventually Andy freaking out because Dee says a line that I gotta tell you, when he said it, I was secretly thinking it myself. But it was one of those things. It's one of those things where, as a gay man, I'm sure as Etai, you have these things too. We're all human, but I know with gay men, our bread and butter is always saying the scandalous thing. That's what people expect of us, and so my brain always goes there. There was a moment where, when the whole point of the oral sex and Andy being there and keeping on coming back, I had the thought in my head. And I was like, oh, that's twisted, but I'm kind of thinking it.
Yeah, but he'll never say that. They'll never say that out loud.
Exactly.
And then he does.
And then Dee says it, which makes Andy freak out, which is essentially, Dee going, do I quote it or do I just sort of imply?
Quote it.
Okay. As Andy keeps going on and on and on, and then Dee just sits there, and Dee has been over it this entire show, and we have to talk about Dee.
Yeah.
But Dee says to Fred, knowing what he's about to say and the meaning behind it, he goes, wow, Fred, I'll say this for you. You must give one hell of a blowjob. It's been 30 years and he's coming back for more.
That is the line.
It is the line.
Is the line. And it does get to the core of Andy there is he even Dee implies that oh yeah, you forgot your cell phone in quotes, in quotes, you forgot it.
Yeah.
You're going to forget it again, and he almost does. And it's is his forgetting it this unconscious thing? Is he's still pulled back, but the question is again, questions. The question is it is it intentional, or is he always also under the control of this man and this trauma that happened to him?
Yeah.
But what Bruce Norris is getting at, I think, because he doesn't let anyone off the hook.
No.
Same thing with CLYBOURNE Park. He did not let anyone off the hook. Is everyone's obsession with their trauma. And like you said, in terms of Tommy, he's learned to live alongside it without letting it define him. But we are in a time where our trauma defines us in many ways, and we're supposed to lead with it.
Because you're not allowed to have an opinion anymore unless you've had trauma.
Yes.
Or either say, your opinion doesn't matter unless you've had trauma to back it up.
And trauma, sometimes we feel, because we have been traumatized, that we have carte blanche to be assholes.
Yeah.
And that is a really complicated thing to talk about. And he talks about it in a brilliant way through Andy, that he's so... they all see themselves as victims, but he is so obsessed with his victimhood. And Dee calls him out for it.
Yeah. Emily's a victim by being married to a victim.
Yes.
It's so...
Yeah, she's victim by proxy. She's
Yeah. It's self-righteous. And again, and Dee says to him, you keep talking about how your life is ruined. Say that again to a man who's on food stamps as you talk to Fred, who's in a wheelchair because when he went to prison, someone broke his spine.
Yes.
And now, has to shit in a bag. And is trying to have, stiff upper lip about it. And, finds the joys of Nutter Butters.
Yeah.
But then there's also other things about Fred where you question, just how much of Fred is... reformed and how much of it is still the sickness being in there, how much of him is his own blindness, because Fred talks about Chopin and the memory, the beauty of the music, and then you find out that the reason why he started playing it after Andy left the first time is because that's a piece he taught Andy.
Yeah.
And when he brings it up to Andy, Andy's pained by it, and Fred can't understand immediately why maybe this isn't the best idea to talk about his teachings of him to him of Chopin and all these things. He doesn't allow himself. Also, Fred is not allowing himself to really reckon with the darkness. He has to cover it up in folksy, rose-colored
like seeing the good in everything.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I mean, because with Fred, he says, I feel awful about it. I reckon with it. I know about it every day. I know it was wrong, and I live with it every day. I live with that shame every day. The question is, like, how deep does that go? Obviously, you know, he is a very, I don't want to deal with the darkness, as you said, and D is someone who lives in darkness.
Yes.
It's where he's comfortable. And the thing about D is he is so smart, and he's so perceptive. And I think what makes him that way is the anger that is within him, the hate that is within him.
Yeah, and the self-hate.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of his last lines is like, I think I'm a terrible person. I think I might be a terrible person.
Yeah.
He says to Fred, they're left alone at the end of the play. But learning about his, as he calls it, relationship, that is one of the more interesting cases of these four, because essentially, so he is a musical theater. He was a musical theater performer, and he toured in national tours.
With Kathy Rigby.
With Kathy Rigby and Peter Pan.
Who's somewhere...
The 1998 tour. Yeah.
And somewhere Kathy Rigby is like, please don't put my name in it.
I know. And yet they somehow got permission.
And Vanessa Williams and Diana Ross.
Right.
Although he didn't work with Diana Ross, he just loves her.
But he worked with, he did music videos. He choreographed music videos or something.
For Vanessa Williams, yeah.
He
was a relatively successful musical theater person in the sense that, like, he was working.
Yes, and when he did this Peter Pan, he was playing one of the pirates on the Jolly Roger, and he began what he calls a relationship with one of the actors playing one of the Lost Boys.
Tootles,
yes, by the name of Tootles.
Yep. It's so specific that Norris makes it Toodles.
Yes, it's so good.
It's so good.
Again, mining any comedy you can out of this horrific subject.
Truly.
But he ended up having this relationship for years, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 to 3 years, something like that.
2 to 3 years, and he says, well, no, he loved me. We loved each other, and then we don't really learn the rest of the story from him, but later on we learn in a very heated moment, the information comes out that he then the young man that he had this relationship with got HIV and died. D does not have HIV, but Gio like accuses him, like, you ruined that kid's life, you ruined his life, and he died because of you, and then they all end up fighting and chaos ensues. But that is one of the trickier cases of these four men.
Well, because you find out from first of all, D makes it very clear. He says, I never had a sexual relationship with a person that young before or since. He's like, this was one person. He goes, this individual, when I was sent to jail, wrote me every week for 7 years until he eventually died, saying how much he loves me and he missed me. First of all, you know, we're talking about a 22, 23 year age gap, which is already large no matter how old you are, but especially at 14. And we've seen now May December romances of that age gap later in life.
Yeah, later, but
I mean, I find it always kind of tricky in general when there's an age gap that large, no matter what. And my own grandfather remarried someone about that same age gap, married someone 4 years older than my mother, and and it was, believe me, it was rough when it happened, and I think there are some things that my family still hasn't reckoned with it, and so Thanksgiving is going to be fun once again. But
Thanksgiving is always a play.
I think they wrote something called the Thanksgiving play.
I think they may have.
On the Broadway. On the Broadway. It happened. I saw it once upon a time. Once upon a one more time, even.
Really, I beg to differ with you. How do you mean? You're the top. Yeah. You're an arrow collar. You're the top. You're a Coolidge dollar. You're the nimble tread of the feet of Fred Astaire.
I remember I was dating someone a little older than myself, and I say dating loosely. I had been on a few dates with someone who was quite a few years older than me, and I was with my sister, and I was talking about how, like, well, it was going, and she was kind of being a little shady about it, and I said, what's up? And she goes, she's like, listen, I want you to be happy, and if you guys connect, that's great. She goes, part of me is always just going to wonder, like, who are you as a person if you are like mentally and emotionally compatible with someone 20 years your junior? Just like you're in just very different points of your life. So it's like, so she's like, to me, that's always just going to be there. And sometimes it's, just through happenstance, the May, which one's younger than May, December? Is it May or is it the December?
May is the younger one.
Okay. She's like, is the December person like emotionally young for their age while the May is emotionally older, and like you somehow Benjamin Button meet in the middle? Who knows? But I hear that and I'm like, I don't totally agree, but I hear you and I get you and I don't not agree at the same time. So there is that component. And then again, at 14, it doesn't matter how mature you are for your age. You're not an adult.
No, you're not a consenting adult.
Not in any way. As someone who was 17 and at the time thought it was my choice to do what I did, it wasn't. It's just not how it works. You have not experienced enough. You are not aware enough of your own faculties, of the world, of the people around you. And when Dee talks about the aftermath and how he was written every week, how much of that is devotion and how much of that is its own sense of trauma? Because Dee never talks about whether he responded or if he could respond. Maybe this was a boy who also wanted answers to all this. I will say I've talked about this myself with my entanglement with Bub. Just the lack of answers and the lack of closure is something that you don't ever get over. You have to kind of eventually move on from it and do your own thing, but that becomes just a raw spot that always lasts there. And I can imagine that manifesting in weekly letters with someone, because the connection to that with Andy is, again, you want to believe that the person who meant so much to you, you meant to them. And it's painful to think that maybe you weren't, that you were just a cog, that you were a pawn. And you want to believe, and you'll do everything you can to believe, because the reality, the alternate reality that you put all your faith in someone who lied to your face daily and you bought it hook, line, and sinker is even more painful.
Yeah. There's also, there's the question with Andy there of like, is the lie conscious? Mm-hmm. The lying about, no, I know that you made me do this. Is it like, memory is a very tricky mistress, and like Andy could possibly remember that this happened to him, that he was forced to perform that act, and then he's faced with the truth, and he literally can't handle it. But you can look at Andy as like, oh, he's known this whole time that he's lying. He's just trying to get this guy to admit. But I don't know that it's that simple.
No, it's never that simple. If Andy knew he was lying, that would make Andy more vindictive than he actually is. Or I don't want to say evil, because we throw the word evil around so much. I feel like evil comes down to ultimately choices. And that's the other thing about these men and their acts is, like, we talk about sickness, right? And that is something that can't necessarily be helped, or it's something that is a flaw that needs to hopefully be healed in you. But when you get to a certain point of your life, you do make a decision of how you act. And that's sort of the thing about Fred that constantly you have to remind yourself, because first of all, Etai and I are talking about this play and none of you are actually watching it. You're not in the room while this is happening. What's the name of the actor who plays Fred again? It's Francis Guinan. I don't care who you are. There is a part of you watching an old man in a wheelchair get accosted, and just on a guttural level, you want to help. Because you're watching an elderly man get accosted. Again, in a wheelchair. Yeah. But you then have to remind yourself the choices that Fred made of how he was going to act. Because the other thing about a predator is that a predator doesn't just act on impulse. They have to be strategic, because they do ultimately know what they're doing is wrong, because society has told them.
Yes, there is shame.
Yes. And the reason I also bring up the idea that there might be a queer component to Andy's sexuality that now has been fucking destroyed because of what happened to him. There is a lot of times with predators, especially queer predators, they can recognize, usually in younger children, those who are sensitive, who are vulnerable, where there's the potential that they could be queer down the line. It's just one of those things that, like, it's a sixth sense that predators have. I don't know how they have it, but they have it.
Yeah.
And they're able to sort of pinpoint the moment to act. With Tommy, Fred clearly knew that he was going to be gay, and that, you know, if he nurtured him to an extent, he could then get Tommy to trust him, and then he could perform the acts that he performed, which is why he also went further with Tommy than he ever did with Andy. Andy, he recognized a sensitive soul who could possibly be queer, but more important than that, had a father who died and a mother who never paid attention and felt very alone.
Needed a father figure, parent figure.
Yeah.
He needed love.
And
he still needs it 30 years later.
Yep.
He comes and he wants love from this man. And it's so freaking complicated.
Yeah.
And I think you talked about in terms of evil is what these people doing, what these people do, is it evil? Are they evil?
Yeah.
Does it make them evil? And I think the playwright is not concerned with good and evil. He's just concerned with humanity, and he nails it in this play.
Again, I think evil comes from meditation and planning. You know, badness is where that comes from. When someone is messy and makes bad choices out of their own messiness and complicated drowning. You know, we talked about this in the Carousel episode, which I don't know if this is coming before or after this episode. I couldn't tell you. I'm recording everything so out of order. But, you know, with the character of Billy Bigelow, you have to remember, and the way to play Billy, truly the way you have to find your way into Billy is after the If I Loved You scene, for the rest of the show, that is a man who is drowning. And every action he does is just immediate guttural impulse.
Yeah.
Most of which he regrets the moment he does it.
And self-sabotage. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not thinking ahead. When it's calculated, that is where it becomes a little trickier. Because and again, we throw words like evil around all the time, and I don't know if I would call it evil necessarily, but sometimes you do question. You know, whereas Fred seems so sweet, and maybe he's the one most trying to repent after the fact, there is a calculated predatorial element to his past that makes you go, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and again, they bring up the word sickness, and we have to sort of consider like what are other sicknesses that we do have empathy for, or addictions.
Yeah.
You know, someone who is addicted to drugs or addicted to, you know, but I guess that is a self-harm as opposed to the harm of another person, let alone the harm of a child. But like, where is it calculated versus where is it impulsive, and they're literally not even in control? It's the sickness taking over. And there's no way to answer it.
There's also, what's also interesting is how with those four and their situations, probably because they are children, how easily the victims end up getting believed, as far as I'm aware, in terms of those situations. Because you look at something like Fred, you know, someone who's married, clearly, you know, closeted homosexual at the time, very sweet, outwardly, probably a very beloved member of the community at the time. You know, we see it now, how many times people don't want to believe the person that they've put all this love and admiration for ends up having done this monstrous thing. You know, look at Bill Cosby, or and it doesn't even have to even go to that extreme. I could list off so many people who I've either had a lovely experience with and then heard something terrible about, or I've had a terrible experience, and then when I like tell friends about it, they're like, well, I've had a great time. It's like people are complicated, and they are capable of a lot of good and a lot of bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think you and I both have seen that in many people. I'm sure we've done the same. You know, for every person out there who says lovely things about me, there's someone out there who, you know, will just tell everyone how awful I am.
They only say lovely things about me, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never done an awful thing. I'm morally perfect.
I know. Etai, I've tried. I've asked everybody. I've asked absolutely everybody. You know what Patty says about you? Best kisser I ever had. She goes, and I've been married for how many years?
Yeah.
Better than my hubby.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask Michael Hayden about you.
Oh, he's going to say that fucking nut job? You cannot live a day on this earth and not hurt somebody.
Correct.
The hope is that you do it accidentally, unintentionally, and you can be made aware of it, and you can apologize and course correct and hope to give that person what they need to move on from anything that you've done to them.
Yeah.
It takes self-awareness, that takes accountability, and that takes a bit of, I hate to say the word, but courage.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess my final thoughts on Downstate is that right now we're living in a time, I mean, like what the internet, what social media has done is it's just made us into such like moral absolutists.
Yeah.
And moral purists. And I'm so grateful that there are artists like Bruce Norris who are questioning all of it, and who are forcing us to question all of it and to live entirely in the gray, because we're getting more and more afraid of gray.
Yeah.
Especially online. And I hope that everyone listening to this goes and reads this play.
Yeah, and I hope,
if you haven't seen it,
and I hope more people do this play, because it's so, every play should be seen and heard, not just read. But you do get a lot of the power from reading it. No, I fully agree with you. We didn't really discuss sort of the ultimate reveal, which is at the end of the act, where we learn that Felix has taken his own life.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't even mention that. I've got to say, though, when I saw it, the first time I saw it, because Act 2 opens with Andy and Dee, and Dee apologizes for the smell.
Yes. I called it immediately.
Same.
Did you as well? And I was trying to figure out as I reread it, because I remember clocking that immediately. The moment they said there's a smell, it's like, because the last thing we see is when we learn about what Felix did, and Ivy says you're going to basically have to either go back to jail, or you're going to have to go back to like this correctional program. Yeah. He's not willing to do that, and he shuts himself in his room. Yeah. And then Act 2 opens with, there's a smell. I knew what was happening. And I was trying to think this time whether that is a flaw of the play. I was like, maybe that's a little bit of a flaw. It's telegraphed really early. But as I thought about it more, I'm like, no. We're just so used to, like, there must be a big twist and a big reveal. We're used to, like, a post M. Night Shyamalan era of, like, the big reveal at the end. But to me, it doesn't matter that we know early on, because it is so inevitable. Yeah. It is so inevitable that one of these, if not many of them, will take their own lives.
Yeah.
Life.
And it's the, even if you know it's coming, like, and we knew it was coming.
Yes.
But there's still just the physical reveal of it. Again, the difference between reading a play and seeing a play.
Yeah.
Just seeing literally Felix, and Norris describes exactly what it's supposed to look like in the script, and it's exactly how they staged it, down to the last detail.
It's brutal. It's
very brutal. And it's the way Sondheim sort of talks about with the beggar woman reveal and Sweeney, he wanted the whole audience to get it at the same moment, and they never did, so he would always try to alter it, which is why he added the beggar woman's all about. Like, he tried to make it so people would know at the same time. And he goes, I've since learned, like, you can never get 1,700 people to get it at the exact same time.
Right.
And so with Downstate, I think it kind of has its cake and eats it too, because you have us, who the moment they say smell, we're like, uh-oh. Yeah. And then an hour later, it's revealed.
We're also people who have seen so many plays and so many films, we're like, oh, there's got to be something.
Yeah. And then the people who don't know it's coming and get surprised, but still, like, just seeing it is enough to jar you.
Yes.
Yeah, and the way that Act 1 ends, Felix goes into his room and starts, praying and reciting to himself, and Dee takes the Diana Ross music and dials it up to 11 and just dances around in the home on his own to drown out the sound of Felix. Yeah. Which is its own form of selfishness, but also at the same time, like, does what he needs to do to kind of get through the rest of the day. Yeah. I feel like there's one other thing I wanted to say, but I can't remember anymore.
There's so much.
There's so much to say. We could go on for hours, but you have a dumb baby at home, and I gotta eventually get home myself.
I know.
Etai, as we've been discussing, I try to, like, kind of talk about this with every work that we go over, whether something is actually problematic, not problematic, or just a product of its time. Determining which of the three we think it is and why. I'll go first while you, because you did ask before, you said, are any questions I should know about? And I said no, and then I threw this question at you.
Boom.
Boom. That's what we call gotcha journalism. I learned that from James Lipton. But for me, I do not find this play problematic. I think, as we were saying, it deals with such a tough moral and ethical situation and refuses to give answers. And because of that, people get very uncomfortable. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Rob and I mentioned this in an earlier episode, and I'm sure I've said it again since. It's been a long week, y'all, and I've recorded 5 episodes. But I do think we have regressed, not only as audiences, but as artists in terms of how we deal with this shit. Because we've kind of gone back to wanting nothing but clear-cut morality set for us. Like, we're back at the Hays Code. It's like, no, I need someone to say to the audience, this is wrong, here's what it is.
Yes, it's like, it's what I was saying about author's intent.
Yeah.
And stuff. We need all the answers spelled out, and we need every single kind of human represented in every play. And we need our plays to be morally pure.
Yeah.
And we're less and less seeking questions.
Yeah.
And that's very scary to me, and I think a lot of art is becoming sanitized, and that's why this is such like an important piece of work to me.
Absolutely. And I've also said, when people go, well, I just want to go to escape, I'm like, I view theater and film and all this like as a steady diet. You can't just live off of sugar, nor can you just live off of broccoli. You need all of it. And I don't trust anyone who only wants to see the tough stuff, and I don't trust anyone who only wants to see the confection. I need everything, and I need it all to sort of be engaging on a different level. So like, I will go see Titanic for a 4th time next week.
Nice.
But also like, tell me that Downstate's happening again, I'll see it for a 3rd time.
Yeah.
And that is why I am amazing.
You are amazing. You're a legend.
I'm a legend in some circles.
Yeah.
I was the first bat boy at the Manor, okay?
You are. You are a legend of the Manor. You're the lord of the Manor.
Yeah. I just know that all of you boys, when you found out that we finally were doing bat boy, and you said, well, who gets to do it? They said Koplik, and you all went, him? He laid in wait while we got to play Frederick and Guido and just...
We all wanted to play Bat Boy.
I know. And I was like, my time will come. I'm going to play the disciple in Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm going to play a shark for some reason. and my time will come, and I got to be Bat Boy.
It was like when I graduated college, and our speaker was Larry Page of Google, and then the year after I graduated, the speaker was Barack Obama.
Good for you.
It's exactly like
That's
that.
exactly like that. You know what it's like? It's like in Smile when you've been watching Jodie Benson and Anna Marie Bobby all night, and then fucking Vianne Cox wins the pageant. That's what it is.
That is.
Intentionally.
Vianne Cox, was she made for the gays?
Are you kidding me? She calls her father long distance in Carolina Change.
I actually just watched Summoning Sylvia, which is the film that
Alex Weiss
and Wes Taylor made, and it is brilliant.
I need to watch that.
And she is wonderful.
You did that. You did the 12 with Wes, did you not?
I did. He's amazing.
Famously Crazier Than You, a song from Addams Family, a show that exists. Etai, Downstate, problematic, not problematic products of its time.
Not problematic
Amazing.
whatsoever. I think it is incredibly well constructed. I think just as like the rules of drama, it is incredibly well constructed. There is not a line that is not necessary. Every little breadcrumb that is dropped has consequences, and this is the opposite of problematic. This is the kind of play that we need right now.
Yeah. And
that I hope more people have the courage to write.
Yeah. I want to leave y'all with one final image how this play ends. Felix has taken his life. It is revealed to everyone. If there's one moment in the whole play when I saw it both times where I was like, I could do without that line. It's when all the violence has happened and Andy has taken the bad and all this stuff, and Felix is revealed to have taken his own life, and everyone gasps, and then Fred just goes, "Oh, Felix."
Yeah.
It's the one. It's the one. And listen, it makes sense because it's Fred, but it's the one line where I was like, we can cut it. But after all it's said and done, and they've taken Felix's body. We flash forward an hour or so later, and Andy's been detained in his car because, he assaulted Fred, and of course Emily comes back, and on a chemical level, I was thrilled.
Yeah,
because
of course.
I was like, Sally's
Your girl's
back.
back. Your girl's back.
Bruce Norris knew what I needed. I needed bookended Sally's. Which, again, talk about a wonderful track. You do your first scene, and then you're like, I'm going to watch 2 episodes of Grey's Anatomy and come back for the finale, which I guarantee you she did. But she comes back, Miss Emily, asking how much longer they've got, because she has a child at that hotel with nothing but a babysitter.
Yeah.
Again, I need your wife to do that during tech. Not you. Social only.
Okay. She's the better actor anyway.
Yes. Well, you said it. But Emily comes in, demanding that they leave soon and being constantly reminded your husband came here on his own accord. And her response is always just, my husband did nothing wrong. My husband did nothing wrong. And in this frustration that she can't leave when she wants to, she sees Dee and Fred sitting there after everything that's gone down, and Gio's now gone to prison, and Ivy doesn't know what to say other than like, we'll find you 2 new roommates soon. And Emily thinks that this is the perfect time to tell them what she thinks of them morally.
Right.
I hope there's an afterlife because I don't think that we've figured out yet in this life what to do with people like you. She goes, and I'm sorry, but that is just how I feel. Which has also become a go-to response anytime someone's a fucking dick.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but that's just how I feel.
It's just how I feel.
Yeah. And then she goes, and listen.
She's kind of a Karen.
Oh, she's the ultimate Karen.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing about Sally in that show that I disagree with, is like, if there's one thing Sally Murphy is a Karen, especially a Becky kind of Karen with a Birkin bag and teaches yoga. I'm like, Sally Murphy is the kind of woman who sees that kind of woman, throws coffee in her face. But I love her expanding her range. But that is where Norris leaves that part of the conversation. Of like, even if you agree with it, is this the moment to say it?
Yeah.
As you go into your Audi with your husband, take your kid, and go back to your nice house in Chicago. But also, as we've said, like, what is their life normally like? Yeah,
and it's like, is all that stuff doesn't mean anything? It's everyone's broken in this play. Yeah. Everyone is broken, and it's hard. You can't compare traumas and comparing, well, this person has wealth, but he was assaulted, and this person, is sick, and this person was beaten, and it's a broken world that he creates.
Yeah, it is. And, everyone is retaliating to either justify themselves or justify a way forward. Dee is angry and lashes out, and he even says, like, I say these terrible things knowing that they're terrible. He's antagonistic that way. Yeah. He's like a cat in heat, and it doesn't change what he's done or what his life is going to be. Fred can try to lead with kindness and calmness going forward. It doesn't change that it'll never get better. Yeah. He can try to make the best of it, but he's living in a shithole. Gio can always claim he's better than everyone else because of the technicality of his crime, but he's going back to jail now.
Yeah, and he was very close to being out.
He was.
In January, he was going to be out of this house.
He was also being messy, though, by having an underage girl in their home jeweling.
Yeah, jeweling CBD or whatever.
Yeah. Emily and Andy do this whole thing expecting everything not necessarily to be fixed, but to get better.
Yeah, some sort of catharsis, some sort of...
And the truth is that it won't, because all the other issues that they have are rooted deeper than that. Mm-hmm. Some of it might be triggered by what's happened to Andy and everything that's now happened since, but it's not the answer. And Norris knows that. Yeah. And that's what makes it a wonderful, wonderful play. Yes. Etai, this has been delightful.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that from the Manor's Bat Boy. It means the world to me. You don't even know what this means to me.
You don't know what it means to me, sir. To speak to the... I'm going to get the exact number. The 15,742nd man to make out with Patti LuPone. That means the world to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've watched you from afar. I've been in the room when your shows have won Tonys, and it's nice to be in the room with you now and have you remember who I am. All these years later. This is my Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction. A movie that's quoted in Downstate, by the way.
That's right, it is.
Yeah, it's a great moment. Dee does have Bruce Norris is not a gay man as far as I know. I believe he has always been connected with women, but he writes Dee in a way where I'm like, oh, you have gay friends and you've absorbed them quite nicely.
He did his due diligence.
Yes, exactly. The final sequence with just Dee and Fred, where they're talking about Lady Day because of that poster. It's very sweet and it's very heartbreaking.
It is, and then they listen to Chopin. That's how the play ends.
Etai, where can people find you if you want them to find you?
If they want to find me, they can find me sometimes on Instagram at Etai Benson.
Don't look for the baby. It's not on there.
No.
And you can find Etai at Paper Mill. doing Fiddler on the Roof. When do you guys perform? What's the opening date?
The first performance, I believe, is the 6th of December.
Okay.
And we run through December and through the new year, through the first week of January. I will be playing Muttle the Tailor. Alexandra will be playing Tzeitel.
Woo!
We get to get married. We get to have our wedding destroyed. And then we get to have a baby. And I want to advocate for my baby to be on stage and make his debut.
I think your baby should.
And I want his health weeks.
Is Sosha gonna mix belt the Be Glad You Got a Man?
You'll just have to come and find out.
I have to go back to Jersey.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Jersey since. Obvious joke here. If you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram only at Matt Koplik, usual spelling. If you like the podcast, give us a nice 5-star rating or review. I don't know if anyone's taken any of that to heart because I've recorded like 7 of these in 10 days, and we'll see what happens. Tune in next week for I don't know what. Either it's going to be Promises, or it's going to be Carousel, or it's going to be The King and I, or it's going to be The Inheritance, or The Boys in the Band. One of those. Yeah, it should be fun. Etai, we close out every episode with a Broadway lady. Who would you like to have us close out today?
It's got to be Miss Sally Murphy.
Correct answer. I wish there was a cover of Sally Murphy singing something from Billie Holiday, but there isn't.
You want to just use the Weird Wild Party song?
I might do the I might do the Weird Wild Party. I might do Princess. I don't know. Maybe I'll just do her final line delivery at the end of the bench scene in Carousel.
The blossoms are just coming down by themselves.
Just their time to, I reckon. She says it with all the breaths in the world. I know you love it.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yes, we all know that bootleg that I posted is canon. It's wonderful.
I know you're a saint for doing it.
Listen, I've done a lot of terrible things in my life. The one thing I know is going to get me to heaven is that fucking bootleg.
We're all capable of good. We're all capable of bad.
Yep.
But you did the ultimate good.
I did the ultimate good. I have destroyed some lives. I've destroyed some careers. There are some people who will never work on Broadway again because of me.
Worth it for that Carousel bootleg.
Absolutely. And then there are some people who book Sweeney anyway. On that note, I've been so good. I've edited every mention of that out of episodes, and this might be the first time that I keep it in because this is Downstate and it's controversial, baby.
Yeah, this is not just for the Patreon.
No, we got to include mayonnaise. All right, y'all, we'll see you next week, and we're gonna have Sally carry us out. Thank you again, Etai. Take us away, Sally. Bye.
Today